when I grew up, which I'm older than you, significantly old, I could be your father, I think.
No, I don't.
Yeah, I think so. No, I think you said something about your father the other day. How old he was? I think I'd be your father. When I grew up, if people said something, you punched them in the face.
Right.
And I'm not saying that's right, but I am saying that worked.
It most definitely worked.
Right. Oh, you grew up in a tough neighborhood.
I grew up in a tough neighborhood, and I've learned many lessons that way.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful for them.
Me too.
Now.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? Like I was out of pocket on some of these things.
Yep.
That caught people's attention. That whooped my ass.
Yeah.
I mean, it really comes down to that have made me a much better man today.
All right, we're back at it.
What's up, man? How's it going?
It's good, man. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me back.
Well, I'm glad you're back, and you've been a big help with Schmuley.
He's a nice puppy, man.
Nice
you got
puppy.
a good one. You
Yeah,
took your time, and you got a good one.
6 years.
6 years since you.
Yeah. Goofy was 8 when I started looking. Actually, it's 7. I tried to breed him. My breeder wanted to breed him. We had 2 females. The second one I really liked. First one I was kind of iffy about. Second one was really a nice female, herding female, and it didn't take. We tried twice.
Right.
And
it wasn't meant to be.
Wasn't meant to be.
And then you got this guy.
And I got this guy. Yeah. I mean, I looked long and hard for this one, but a lot of help. I had a lot of help from guys like Frank Phillips tried to help me out. Danny Craig helped me out.
Yep.
Connie and Peter Sherrick were the biggest helpers for me getting that dog. And you've been a big help. So I owe you
man, it's
a lot.
My pleasure, man.
Well, I remember I was busting your chops. I said, I'm going to get a dog, and I want to make sure that when I get a dog, you're going to be there to help me. And you've been.
I know you didn't believe me at first. You were probably like, nah, this dude's going to flake out on me.
I did, because everybody does.
Yeah, no, I told you, if you get a puppy, I'll help you out.
No, you've been spot on.
Or at least I'll try. I mean, we're not always going to be right, but we'll try.
Yeah, but you know what most people do? They say, oh, when you do this, I'll be there for you. I'll be there for you.
Yeah.
And then you do it, and then you're like stuck there holding. I mean, for me, the big part was understanding the protection thing. Like that's something I don't know anything about. I mean, I know about it, but applying application and knowledge are 2 very, very different things.
For sure.
Big fan of the sport. I've watched you for years. But actually trying to figure out, okay, I know what we should be doing,
right?
But getting that into practice, that's where you've been coming in.
Yeah, I mean, and we see it like lately. I've been seeing it a lot. Like a lot of people write down a lot of good things, like the theory, how to do things and all that, and then you watch them train, and you're like, yeah, well, you don't really know how to put it together. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then I'm kind of like the opposite. Like it's kind of hard for me to use all these big terms and words to break things down in the dog world, but and I feel like when I have the dog in front of me, I could kind of like just make it happen somehow.
Yeah. I think you're right about that. I mean, you have a certain skill set that is super powerful, and I think a lot of people, and this is what I always talk to you about. How many times have I said, stay in your lane, right? Do it, because you're so good at this. I mean, you're good at many things, but this one thing we want to talk about today, which is protection dog sports and obedience. You're at the top of the game. But you can apply it. Like like what I did in the shelter. Like I had a very hard time pinpointing things down, saying, oh, it should be this way. Because everyone knows, I hate science in dog training.
Right.
Because not that it's not applicable, but I always said science is the study of what I'm doing, right? Or what any good dog trainer does, not just me. We don't need to go to science to understand what we're already doing. And like with you, I watch you work a dog, and it's organic. It's natural. It's beautiful. And you don't have that, which I always consider the BS factor, right? In like these big terms and these big words that these other guys who have these expensive courses do. It's organic. You put your hands on the dog and it works. Whatever you're doing there, it works. So
yeah, and I mean, I don't know, maybe in another 20 years I'll be able to break it down and
I hope you don't.
To the science, but I just I have never done that, and I've thank God I feel like I have this gift, and but I don't know all the big words, man, and sometimes it makes me feel like, do I even know what I'm doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, do I even
you shouldn't doubt yourself.
I know. It's just, I guess it's part of being I'm sure a lot of people out there get the same feeling sometimes.
But some people get to this point where they don't. Like, they're overly confident.
Right.
Like, they're just like, oh, I know everything, blah, blah, blah. But they really don't.
I know. And I don't know what it is. What do you think makes that happen? Is it like your upbringing? What is it?
Well, I mean, I think you and I kind of grew up similarly but differently. Like I grew up very lower middle class, almost lower class. Did you come from Mexico?
No, so my parents did.
Your parents did. Okay, so I was raised here, but lived in Germany. German was my first language. So I was a foreigner.
Right.
I was an outsider. And, I was very insecure. I got beat up going to and from school. I hated life. Like I'm trying to write my book. Stoops is trying to get me to write the story of my life. And the first chapter is my childhood sucked, because it really did. And I don't know. I just think there was a transformation for me where I just said, you know what? I'm going to find what I'm good at.
Right.
And I'm going to go for it. And if I'm not good at something, I just quit. Like, I don't want to do it. Like guitar, I'm not good at, but I like it just for me personally. I would never play in public. I would never play a song for somebody.
Got it.
And it's just, I know what I'm good at and I stay in that lane. So I have confidence
there.
So
I think that's a big thing, right? Like being able to define what you're good at or define what you want to be really good at. You know what I'm saying? And like go stick to that process and own it. And for me, I always felt like, and I even to some extent nowadays, even we've talked about it, like, man, sometimes I feel like I need to get more into like the pet dog industry. Like, and I mean, obviously we run a successful business and I trained a lot of pets, but, and then I also have the sports stuff and I'm like, which one? Like, and I'm always like, kind of flopping back and forth and I'm not really set on what exact way I want to go.
Right.
And you've helped me out tremendously with, trying to figure myself out. And so, but yeah, I feel like a lot of trainers out there are like that sometimes. And
I think people get into this whole like hero thing or the mentor thing and like this, like the accreditation thing. Right. I think that's a huge issue. I've got a big issue with it. I mean, I'm going to do a certification for dog trainers, but so many people have been asking me for so long to do it. And I've trained so many dog trainers. Like, to me, I'm in my lane. Right. I see a lot of people with, okay, we're going to, now these other people, I'm not saying anything. These people are starting an online certification program. Now these people are going to do an online course for this. And it's like, these are things that I've been doing for a long time. And I mean, I don't care, do whatever you want to do. Yeah. But it's, you just keep stepping outside of your line and people really don't know who you are, Right. And that's what I was saying to you. Like, if you really understand your market, there's a market for everybody, right? There's like these crazy little, and the more specific it is, the more money you can really make and the more notoriety you can get or whatever. To me, I mean, I've been lucky. I mean, I've made a good living with dog training. I've had several careers. I was a bodyguard, did photography, had a martial arts school. I've always done well, but the dog training was the only thing that I really, besides the martial arts, I loved it. And I felt I was finally giving something back. Right. And that was important to me. And you really have done a lot of stuff with that too. Like, every time I had a rescue dog, you offered up free training, and that's huge. And a lot of people don't do that, or they'll only do it if there's something in it for them. Right. I mean? But I want to get back to your talent in dog training, and then we got a big announcement we're going to make. Yeah, man, today, I'm excited. Right? Yeah, so we got to stick with this for a little bit. You have this ability, in a real organic, natural, raw way, to work with dogs, and I'm talking about like high-level dogs. Like, I have a really natural way to work with shelter dogs and problem dogs. But like I said to you, my talent is in getting dogs. Boom, like, hey, don't do that. Your skill is in, I'm going to get the dog to do that. Right. To get the dog to be naughty, but shape it in a way so that it's useful in protection sports. Right. When did you realize first that I know you talked about Pete kind of helped you, right? Yeah. Burmeister. Yeah. I mean, he's the one that introduced me to the. Oh, he did. Yeah. He was like my introduction to the world of dogs biting. Okay. Because the shuts, he was doing shuts in, but he was never, I mean, at least when I met him, he was already older. So he wasn't like a high level trainer or anything like that. And very, his methods were very dated, now that I look back at it, but yeah, that was like my first initial look into that. And then, OJ Knighton was another guy who, who was, in the scene
when I first came across was the Caesar Milan.
Yep,
and
of course,
that's like my first introduction to even dog training. That I was like, what?
Yeah,
like this is a thing, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think Caesar, I mean, whether you love him or hate him, I've got no issue with him at all.
Yeah.
Like this guy really opened everybody's eyes to that this is a career.
I'm glad to hear that, you know, that you don't have anything against the guy, because for me, I mean, he was somebody who I looked up to and was like, not only is he on TV, but like this dude looks like me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
sounds like
you know what I'm saying?
Walk through.
You know, like he kind of, you know, we have, and so I was like, this is a thing. Like this can happen, and obviously, you know, you start seeing them as like celebrities and everything, but yeah, to me it was, whoa, like I can't believe this can happen. You know, it was huge.
Yeah, I think a lot of the hate for Caesar was just, I think it was just manufactured personally.
1,000%.
You know, I mean, I think it's unfair.
Well, we get it now. I mean, you've gotten it, you know?
God, yeah.
I've seen, you know, as soon as people get to a certain level, they're going to get some sort of hate. It doesn't matter, you know, especially the way the dog training is going now. And it's just a matter of time before, you know.
It's sadly, I think dog training has sadly gone to this kooky side. You know, I mean, I don't like it. You know, I mean, I remember I think my first online dog training stuff was like 2008, something like that, 2007, 2008. And I didn't really want to do it. I didn't think it was a great, you know, I did it for rescue dogs,
right?
You know, and that was my thing. But everybody's kind of jumping on, but nobody wants to train dogs. I said everybody wants to just be an online dog trainer.
Right.
And that's really too bad, because I think that's what's taken away from the true craft of it. And like I said to you before, when we were watching the videos, like my goal, like I don't want to train any more dogs. I just want to train my new puppy, Schmuley, with you. I really want to, like, just you and me meet 5 days a week and train. And you've got Galan now. We can kind of partner up on this thing.
For sure.
You know, but where did you see yourself going? Like, did you want to be a dog trainer? Like, did you watch Caesar?
You know what?
I want to do this?
I don't think I ever wanted to be a dog trainer. I just love dogs. Like I mean, I could remember like all the dogs growing up. So, and I don't really remember a time where I remember going to Mexico and then, leaving my dog here, my puppy here, which I wasn't even supposed to have one. I owned a puppy at like 12 years old. My parents were not educated, which is another thing that we were talking about earlier. And I remember just wanting to get back to my dog. Like all I cared about was my dog. I would sleep with my dog. Like, you know what I'm saying? So
what kind of dog was that?
It was like a pit bull mix.
Okay.
Like
a rescue dog.
I mean, my aunt had the litter, and
got it.
He ended up giving us one for $50, and you know, and so and I named him Dopey. Yeah, of course he had like he had like a hood name.
That's funny.
but anyways,
like a Disney name.
Yeah, but back then it was like they'd name like, you know, like the little gang, like gang members and stuff would be named that. But anyways, long story short, the dog he became too much dog. He was way too much. Yeah, and then obviously it didn't help that I was walking him around the block in like a harness and like letting him pull me around and you know, and then I remember he tried to bite my mom, so we were like, we got to place him. And then but my neighbor ended up purchasing him from us for like $100 or something. Long story short, like that dog ended up being way too much dog. Like it would have been a huge problem for us to own in a townhome. But anyway, so I always loved dogs. Since I can remember, and seeing Caesar doing all that, man, like, and then I remember when I started getting into dogs, I remember the trainers that I would kind of hang out with would talk about him like in not good light. And I was always like, man, but like, you know, there's like some good stuff there that, you know, and I still do stuff that he would show back then, like put dogs on a treadmill when they're reactive. I'll put them on a treadmill and let them hang out and keep them occupied. Like I still do things that he was doing back then. And so to me, it was like good stuff. But you know, now that I'm older and I'm in this business, I'm like, man, it's crazy how they painted this guy out to be. And there were some things that maybe even now he's probably like, man, I don't know why I did that or why 100%. I even allowed that to be on there. 100%. That's just part of the game.
But so what? You know, we've all made mistakes. You know what I mean?
1,000%.
And that's the sad part is, you know, the people who criticize you the most have the least position to do it. That's what I always find. You know, whenever I see a negative comment, I always just, like Janet taught me, she goes, just click on, look who it is. And like they're never really good trainers.
There's been I mean, now like my TikTok kind of took off a little bit. And anytime you get once you get more than 200,000 views on a video, you know it's going to come with some sort of backlash from some. And most of the time when I go back and I'll do what you do, I'll just click and see the page. I can see why they see it this way, because all they interact with are dogs out in the country somewhere where they just let them free roam, or they have one dog that they're teaching tricks in their living room. They don't never see the type of dogs like Galan, or you know what I'm saying, or even Schmuley. People think that, you know, that these dogs are just always these happy-go-lucky dogs, and that we make them mean and all. Not genetically. Sometimes they just come out the box like that.
Yeah, they're dogs.
Yep, exactly. You know? So, anyways,
So when did you go from, so you're training pet dogs. Right? How old were you when you trained your first dog?
First dog, oh man. It was 2009, I believe.
Okay.
So 15 years ago.
Okay. So like right around the same time as me, a little bit, just like, but 20 years ago I started, but professionally, I'd say around that age.
Oh no, like 2009 was when I got my my first dog, like my first Corso.
Okay.
My first Corso that I purchased for me. Yeah.
And then is that when you made that switch? Like you said, I want to do protection dogs.
Well, 6 months prior to that, when I put the deposit for the dog, is when I started going to Petersfield, because I was right by my house and I would drive by.
Oh, you lived down there near
Carson. The field that I have now. Yep. I would drive by there and see it, and then that's when I stopped by and I was like, oh, I want to learn about, you know, whatever they got going on right here. Yeah. And but I was watching Cesar Millan at the time, and I saw OJ on there, so it kind of like, you know, and then when I saw
remember that show.
And then when I saw Peter there training dogs, I stopped by, and that's kind of how so 6 months prior I was there, and then I got my dog.
Okay. So that was really early on, like 2009
2009,
or 10. You were starting to do
man. I was
stuff.
Was it? I don't know, whatever. I was 2009.
Yeah.
I mean,
because you and I met the first time at Robert Wademan's field.
That was like 2012-ish, maybe 2013-ish.
Because Goofy was doing Mondio obedience stuff back then. Yeah. And that was the first time we met. And who else was there? Who was the guy? David Wright. Was there. OJ was there. Yep. Robert Wademan was there.
They ran their Mondio Ring Club out of there.
Yeah, you did. That's right. I remember that. And then you've kind of, ever since then, kind of taken off. Like you really kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard not to take off when you have a passion for something. You know what I'm saying? And you're doing what you love. I mean, literally, this is what I love doing. So it's just kind of hard not to.
But how did you? Okay, because I'll tell you where I got stuck, and I think you know. I joined a club, and the club I joined, they were doing stuff old school.
Right.
And at that time with Goofy, it was too much for him. Like, and we know now, I mean, I'll tell you who told me this was Danny Craig, who we both love. Danny said, Robert, this is not the right training for Goofy.
Right.
He knew there, and he pulled me aside and told me, and I'm never going to say the name of the club that, you know, that I didn't like, I didn't agree with it, but I was kind of stuck. I was like, okay, I didn't have anywhere to go. You were smarter than me because somehow you figured out how to do it in a much better way there.
Well, I feel like, so when I was coming up, you know, Michael Ellis was already doing, you know, his courses. So that was definitely a style that I was into compared to, like, you know, what I would normally see dogs looking like, meaning like not animated, not, you know, happy in the work.
For sure.
So when I would see that, I was like, I want to look like that. Right. Yeah. And, you know, so that's why I feel like and I had Larry Hansen, who was also, like, you know, trying to get that focus heel and all that for IGP at the time. And so I feel like I had some good people around me. Yeah. And you know what? Everything happens for a reason, because I was part of a club and I ended up kind of getting the, you know, kind of like the boot a little bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I had to go out and seek other things. And I feel like it helped me out, just getting out different places and growing and grabbing things from different people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So when you started training, like when did you first get your first IGP, like your one? Was that with a Corso? Was that Benny?
No. That was with Guapo. Yeah, that was with Guapo.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Guapo's like my main. I mean, I haven't, and that's another thing. Like, you know, I'm not. I love this stuff, and, you know, but at the time, like, I had a full-time job. Had my, you know, I had my daughter, and then my son was born. So when I got Guapo, I was super busy, you know. So I I couldn't do too much. So I got him titled literally with like my plate, just like fully stacked with
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, because I had a full-time job, then I had the dog training gig on the side, then I had my family. So it was tough, man. And but Wapo was my first one. And I titled him at maybe he was about to be 3, I would say.
And then you took him 1, 2, 3 all the way through,
right?
Like
he was already ready pretty much, But going back, the first dog that I ever titled was in Mondio Ring, and that was my Corso. That was Slater. So that was in 2013, 14 or something like that, 15, I don't know.
And that was in Mondio, in everything, like
that was. I titled him. I got him a French Ring Brevet and a Mondio Ring 1, and he was he was the only Corso to have it for a long time in the U.S. Wow. So that was like my first walk into competition. Before that, I was just doing decoy work. I was decoying in, doing Mondio Ring Nationals. I was doing French Ring Trials. I was doing IGP or Schutzen IPO at the time. So that's what I was doing mainly. I was decoying. I was traveling all over the U.S. just doing trials.
So how did you learn to be a decoy? Like what was the genesis of that? Like how did you get into that?
I enjoyed taking bites, and I was a big fan of it from the first time that I put a suit on at OJ's, and I remember just YouTube was like taking off at the time, so there were already like some Mondio Ring videos there that I would watch, and trying to figure out moves, and I'd go the next weekend and do these moves on these dogs, and so that's kind of where it took off. And I was addicted to decoy work. I was, I mean, that's all I wanted to do was decoy dogs. I didn't really, the training, I had fun with it and I enjoyed it, but the decoy work was where it was at for me.
I mean, we both are I'm a huge fan of the sports too. What I see now though, the thing I don't like, and talk about stuff was a long list, but like, I think the bite sports, and I was on this thing in Austria where they were trying to ban protection dog sports. And a lot of places are trying to ban it. And I think a lot of it has to do with, one, people get these dogs, they can't control them, and we were talking about that. What do you think, is there some kind of a magic answer to that? Like, as I think people get a Malinois, like when I first saw Malinois, this got 2005 maybe, or something like that. It was the first Malinois I saw. And the first Malinois I ever saw was on Learberg. Ed Frawley, he had a picture. I was like, "Oh, that's a cool looking dog." I never knew what a Malinois was.
Really?
Yeah, it was the first time I ever saw one. I was like, "I want one of those dogs." And I was I was working with shelter dogs. I knew, and a friend of mine helped train his Doberman, but it's a lot of dog.
It is. I mean, obviously, there's going to be, some that aren't.
Sure.
Don't have the genetic that others have. They could be a little calmer. Those are usually like what we call like people say, oh, that's like a pet quality Malinois.
Sure.
But if you get a dog that, genetically has all the goods, especially if you wanted to be a dog that is more for, say, police work, or, he's a little more, he's got that little edge to him. Yeah. I mean, it could be dangerous, you know what I'm saying? And I think that if not dealt with the proper way, meaning if you don't nip a problem in the butt as soon as you can have big issues. And we're seeing it now. We're seeing it because every week I get tagged on Malinois at shelters because they are not for everybody. These dogs are, I mean, it takes somebody that's, luckily, this is what I do every day. So I train my dogs every day. These dogs are not for everybody.
I know.
And
But okay, so there's an issue I've got, right? So like these dogs aren't for everybody. People are breeding them in backyards. They're selling them on Craigslist. I was literally going out to Somis on Sunday. Swear to God. I'm driving and I saw a guy with a pickup truck on the side of like a very, very busy road. And he had 3 German Shepherds in the back and a big spray paint sign that said German Shepherd puppies. And I pulled over and I go, "Hey, what's going on?" He goes, "Oh yeah, $300 each." And I said, "Do you know anything about them?" He goes, "Oh yeah, they have Czech and German, West German working lines and da-da-da-da." And I was like, "Well, do you know anything about their health?" He goes, No. And he was a nice guy. I mean, the problem is, I'm not going to say I'm faulting the guy because he's trying to make money, but here's the problem. He's not trying to make money by buying some fruit and selling it on the side of the road. That's noble. There's a long-term implication when you sell a puppy.
Right.
And that puppy's going to live for 10, hopefully, God willing, 10 to 15 years. And that dog is going to have the ability to bite. And it's a heartbeat. Stoops always calls them heartbeats. It's not a widget. So that dog has feelings.
Yep.
And we overlook this too much. Like too many people are breeding these dogs and then they go, well, I wanted, and this goes into every other sport. Oh, well, I want a super performance dog. And I've seen it happen, and I'm not going to even mention the sports. I want a super performance dog, and they breed these dogs together, and then they get 3 super performance dogs, but it's a litter of 8. And those 8 are like, well, just, we'll give them away to friends and stuff like that. But genetically, they're not right for that. If I'm purpose breeding a dog for protection, agility, obedience, whatever, even the ones that don't cut it to be where we want them to be, aren't right for my neighbor.
Right.
So, I mean, and this is why I just get so pissed when I see these dogs on Craigslist, on Facebook Marketplace, trying to get, we got to get rid of these dogs.
Yep.
It's a freaking heartbeat, man. Like that dog has feelings, and it can be dangerous. I see them in the shelter. I've seen Malinois in shelters. I wouldn't touch them.
Yeah, I mean, they were bred for a purpose. And the problem also happens because, well, first of all, growing up, I'm from the kind of like the projects, and,
I get it.
And I think I mentioned that in the last time we were here. And we don't have education regarding dogs.
Yep.
I mean, we think, that dog looks cool. They're gonna go if they find a good deal, they're gonna get it.
Yep.
I remember when I was looking for Connie Corsos, I was on Craigslist every day. At the time, that you wouldn't see them. You'll see one pop up maybe every 3 months, and I would go over there and see them so I could see what they look like and all this. But I had no clue about temperament. I mean, temperament wasn't even something that was talked about. You're just going to get a dog.
Yeah, it's a dog is a dog.
And what ends up happening is you get a dog, and if he has a crappy temperament, how much you paid for this dog, right? I paid $3,500 for my first dog. So I go, even if it has crappy temperament, well, I'm going to find a dog that has good temperament,
right?
And I'm gonna breed them together, and I'm gonna get dogs with good it doesn't work that way,
right?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I think that there's no education, and I think that's where there has to be a change with us educating people about dogs, especially minorities. I mean,
I agree.
That's just where it's at. Like we never got educated regarding dogs.
But that's the sad part, because what happens is when you can bring it up, you're Mexican, right?
Yeah.
But if somebody says it, and I've said it's a demographic, by the way, there is plenty of dumb white people living in trailer parks who are doing the same stupid stuff, right? I'm not criticizing, and I've said this about pit bulls, which is the #1 breed that's desecrated because of this. And it's not Latinos or blacks or whites, it's all of them.
Yeah.
They're all doing it because it's not, and this is why I've made it a point so much. I've put so many free videos on YouTube, because just because you're not wealthy and you can't afford to hire you and me as a trainer because we charge a lot of money, you're entitled to education.
Right.
That should be a given, right? But we need to make it important for those people to research. Because now, if you have a phone, and trust me, in Uganda and Rwanda, everybody's got a smartphone.
Right.
So people have them. They can go on YouTube for free and say, okay, we need this.
Yeah, but I think it goes deeper than that too.
Tell me.
Because I feel like, well, first of all, we never even looked at dogs as like family members. We looked at dogs as like just something to have. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I feel like that's where it stems from.
Interesting.
At least in our culture.
Yeah.
We have dogs, and now we're getting better. We're starting to, incorporate them more into the family.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying everybody's like that, but I do feel like, you kind of looked at dogs as just something to have. It wasn't like, a part of your family, how we see dogs.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I think that's where it really stems from. Like we were talking earlier, like I can't believe people can dump an old dog at the shelter.
Yeah, they do.
Just because
They're old.
Just because they can no longer walk that good. All right, and then I'm going to grab another one.
Yeah, grab a puppy, trade it in.
You're like, what? and that is people that I feel like they don't have that, that connection, that connection with the dog, as a being.
But can that be taught?
I don't know if it could be
I wonder.
taught. I feel, yeah, I think it goes a lot deeper than what we're talking about. Like, because you're talking about maybe people that didn't even, they probably didn't even have their own parents to raise them.
Yeah,
and
true.
so you're raised, and so it's just, it goes on and on. So who knows, know? But yeah, you're right. I think we need to educate as much as we can.
Yeah. And again, it's not an issue. I said it a million times. This is a socioeconomic issue, and it goes across Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Indian. What doesn't matter. If you don't have enough money to feed your kids, you're certainly not intent on buying the best food for your dog.
1,000%.
Right? So I understand that. But then I kind of say, maybe just don't get a dog. Like, don't have the 8th kid if your 7th kid is hungry. You know what I mean?
And it's a hard position to be, because you just see it as like, oh, my kid wants a dog.
Yeah, right.
I'm just gonna get the dog, and whatever. And they don't even know that the dog could have puppies when it comes into heat. Like they don't even understand that concept of it. So that's how. And then we just get a bunch more dogs, and unfortunately, that's why we're at right now, where dogs are getting put down every day.
Dogs have been put down for a long time, and a lot of the issues is there's more people, there's more dogs. We really don't put much money into shelters, city shelters and everything. I mean, the big, I'm not going to say their names, but there's big organizations that take in tens of millions of dollars and do the least amount of work for that money. Right?
AS.
Yeah, exactly. That one, yeah. And the other one that's like a really good,
I don't know.
A good friend. Yeah, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not mentioning it. But what I want to talk about is why a lot of these dogs are in shelters, right? And there was a study done by this organization, Best Friends, and they said that behavior modification is as important as veterinary care if you want to get to a no-kill situation, right? That's an interesting thing. But, and I'm going to pull Caesar back into this, the thing that we're brainwashed with now is this positive only thing.
Right.
Which is a complete crock of crap. It's a lie. They tell you that every problem can be solved with treats and no corrections, right? No aversives. But you said your golden doodle might even be a problem because you've had to correct your golden doodle.
1,000%, man. I mean, my golden doodle comes from we got a golden doodle because my wife wanted a golden doodle, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get her a golden doodle. Yeah, so we got a golden doodle.
Happy wife, happy life.
And so obviously it comes from a golden retriever. I was like, you know what? The reason why I got him from this person, this breeder, was because I had trained other dogs from this breeder, and I said, I like them.
Okay, nice temperament.
Yeah, nice temperament. I could probably do something with them because, they had a little bit of drive, and they were good dogs, good family dogs. But, I can't tell you how, like, we've gone through like separation anxiety phase. Now he's good, but during that phase, if he would have been with somebody else who didn't know how to deal with the issue, we would have had problems.
Yep.
What did we do? I told my wife, I said, do not pet him. Don't get him all amped up. Yeah. And you know what? He's going to go out. He's going to be sleeping outside until he gets used to it. Then he can come back in and hang out with us again. Perfect. And the dog now can operate because, and again, it was more, we gave him so much love. He was our main house dog. Yeah, day one. And he just became addicted to it. So when he couldn't have it, now he started chewing up on, when we took him out, he would want to get back in. He'd destroy our plants. He was a mess. Yeah. And I'm a dog trainer. Yeah. But I was like, oh, so now we got to work on this. Now we got to fix this issue that we've created. Yep. We created this.
Sure.
So I've had to, correct. I had to do certain things. I had to correct them. I had to, but now we're in a good place. Yeah. When we walk on leash, super interested in other dogs. He, at one point, I remember he got all crazy and he barked. Yeah. I corrected him for it.
Sure.
Now we go on walks every day. Is he still interested? Yeah, sure. He's a little interested, but he doesn't go off. He just continues walking.
Yeah.
Could I have done it with just food? Maybe.
Might still be doing it.
Might still be doing it right now.
Right.
Does that mean that my wife could do? Probably not. Because she doesn't have the eye and the timing that I have.
Sure.
Or so that's when it becomes very hard, I believe. Can some dogs be trained with just a harness and some food?
100%.
Of course.
100%.
But that's not every dog.
Not every dog.
And I think that's where we run into this huge issue. You know what I'm saying? That they try to paint this picture, but they're not honest about what really goes on. Yeah. Like the dogs they have to place or that they can't do it. Because they can't do it.
Yeah.
Or the dogs that they tell them to, maybe you have to put this dog down because he has this issue.
Yeah. I want to talk about that though. That's a really important piece that we didn't bring up. This is a big problem that people have. Like nobody ever wants to put a dog down. I understand that, right? But years ago, if the puppies came out and they were deformed or they had a really bad genetic, they killed the dogs, right? And I just did this big thing about this Kristi Noem, the governor of South Dakota, for killing her 14-month-old dog. But it's not that I'm upset that somebody put down a dog that was aggressive. I'm upset because she made it like it was this cool thing to do. Like, I'm cool for doing it. I had to put a dog down. I told you about that dog. I'm going to do a video on that dog at some point. When a dog is too dangerous, that dog should be put down.
Right.
But nobody wants to do that. If you go to a shelter today, you're going to find a bunch of feel-good volunteers, and they're the nicest people in the world. The nicest, most genuine, much better people than me, right? They care, they're loving, they're giving of their time. But oftentimes they get hooked into a dog that is the wrong dog. It bit a kid's face. And then they make excuses. Well, the kid kind of got in the dog's face. Right. And I'm thinking, yeah, you know what? Kids should be able to get in any dog's face, It's going to happen
because they don't know.
Right. But you can't tell me that you're going to try to save 140-pound, this is a true story, Great Dane in the shelter who bit a kid in the face, and you've got 20 dogs over there that's never done anything wrong.
Yeah.
Good dogs. Those dogs, nobody's worried about those dogs. And that's the place where we are
What
now.
is it though? Is it like, and again, I think it stems from like them wanting to fix the bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, I gotta save this.
Well, I'll tell you what it is. You want to know what it is? And Jan and I talked about it. You want to be the biggest hero, right? Like, you don't want to go, like, here's the thing. When I bought Goofy, I bought Schmuley, everybody said, oh, why are you buying a dog? Why don't you get a dog from a shelter? Because I wasn't looking for a pet. I was looking for a working dog. I got Schmuley because I want to do a working dog. But you're not a hero, right? So if I bought a dog it doesn't even matter what I paid for him, it means nothing. If I get a dog from a shelter and it's maybe a purebred, it means a little bit more, right? Then you go up to, well, you know what? He was kind of old. Well, he's got missing an eye. He's missing a leg. He's aggressive. He came from the meat market. He came off the euthanasia table.
Oh my God.
We have these ladders in society now, right? Where we feel more badly about things. But I've had people say, oh, I got this dog from the China meat trade, and he was about to be slaughtered. The butcher was about to kill him, and we pulled him off. Like, now you're a freaking hero.
Yeah.
Right? And just like you're a hero when you go out and you say, oh, I got this rescue dog, and he's 14 and he's, da-da-da. You don't need to be a hero. Just, and if he's aggressive, oh, he's so aggressive, he killed 2 other dogs. Well, I don't want him living next to me.
Right.
Right. I don't want dangerous dogs in my neighborhood. Yeah. I don't like dangerous dogs.
And listen, because we had a client, and we rarely suggest to to unalive the dog. How people have to say it now, because
I'd say kill him.
Yeah. So and we this is probably the second time that in years.
Yeah.
But this dog was going after family members, and I said. And so one of my trainers worked with the dog, and he called me. He's like, you know what, man? I just don't think that this dog is going to, like, I don't care. I don't know what we just can't, right? I don't think we could fix this dog. I lined it up to where this person was going to get another dog from the breeder. If he did decide to follow through with this, he was going to get another dog from the breeder. We were going to already train it because we had already paid for services. Okay. There's no reason for me to have to do all that, but I felt really bad for them. And I said, look, man, this dog, he's definitely, a hazard. I mean, he's just not a good dog. And maybe some things that you did when he was younger, but a lot of it is his genetics.
Yeah.
And his genetic, and I know the breed. I know the breed, and I know what they can do. So, anyways, long story short, he goes, yes. And then he ends up getting back to me. He's like, you know what? We contacted another trainer, and this trainer said that he can fix it. So I want to give this dog a shot. Dude, please give this dog a shot.
Sure.
Go for it. I'm not going to be mad that, I mean, this guy loves his dog.
Got it.
And, you know, he's trying to do what's best for this dog.
Sure. But
you already know where this story goes. I end up giving the guy a refund for the training. And I said, hey, man, I'm sorry that we couldn't do it. Sorry, go with this other trainer. I then hear like 2 months later that this dog bit a kid in the face. And I'm like, I hate to say it, you know, but I told you this could happen. Now, I don't know how bad it was. I didn't want to get into details.
It doesn't matter.
But to me, it's like,
it's a bite of a kid.
Imagine if this was another situation. I don't know what happened, but imagine if he bit this kid and he loses an eye. Yeah. Or what? So just because you wanted to not, or, you know, if you were going to do it, you were going to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Then you would have put the kennel for that dog and treated him like a dangerous dog that he was.
Yeah. And what kind of life is that for the dog? Right.
You know what I'm saying? But to me, it's like, I hate how the way we're going now. It's like, well, no, well, you could never tell somebody that they have to put their dog down. Okay, I'm in the business of like training protection dogs. I know when I see a dog,
well, that's my point,
where he's coming from when he's biting.
Yeah, for sure.
And I could see when the dog is gonna not give you any signs and he's just gonna go for the bite.
Yeah.
And has a screw loose. I've seen this multiple times in the Corso breed because I've trained hundreds, if not thousands, of Corsos. I know the breed, and I could literally, before, when I was a little bit more into the breed, I could literally pinpoint the bloodline that it came from by looking at it. And so I knew the temperament that it came with sometimes.
Yeah.
I can't tell, like, I had another lady, her Corso, my husband is showing up and the dog is going off on him. Well, we could do these things. We're going to try to, and at the end of the day, it always happens the same way. I go, hey, you got to really take this serious. Like this dogs go off on their owners. And I'm just like, man, I can't believe it.
There's nothing worse if then a dog bites the person in the house. A child is the worst.
I'm going to give you the last example and we can go into another one. I had a lady come to me. This was about, I don't know, 7 years ago or something like that. And she came to me with a Presa Canario who was going after her. This dog was 4 months old when she came to me. I put a correction on this dog. She sent me a long message about how I was not the right trainer for her. And I said, I completely respect. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know, a year later, I contact her. I go, hey, how's the dog doing? I had to shoot him. Luckily, she had a gun on her. She said, you tried to kill me. I had to shoot him. Wow. I promise you.
I believe you.
I promise you this. And I'm like, this is crazy. Yeah. You didn't want to correct the dog with the prong collar.
Yeah.
But now you're putting
a bullet in his head,
in his chest. So
whatever.
And I'm just like, man, I cannot believe it. But that's where we're going. That's where we're headed.
But so that's the thing. And I'm going to give you a great example. So I know this person at the shelter, lovely lady, sees me at the shelter, sees me working with these dogs, and says, "Hey, I got a dog I need some help with. His dog's reactive." So that's code word for his dog aggressive. Mm-hmm. Dog reactive is. I've seen a couple of dogs who are reactive. They bark, bark, bark. You and I can read a dog when they're dog reactive and when they're dog aggressive. And I'll call a spade every time. So I said, okay, I'll meet you at the park. Fine. Meet him at the park. Now she has two dogs, right? One sets the other off, of course. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay, so we'd start doing some long line work. And Janet's watching and Janet's filming it. And Janet had her little dachshund Bosman attacked by a dog that almost killed it. So she has trauma from it. I had my Shar-Pei attacked by a Doberman that I had to take serious measures with. Mm-hmm. So I've got trauma issues with it. And so we got this dog out there. She's filming it and they're out there and she's out there. And I'm doing long line work, correcting the dog, doing whatever. And so I'm like, I don't know. I'm not seeing anything in the dog, right? Nothing. Literally. This dog, she was holding the line, and the worst thing you can do is let an owner hold a line in a park, right? Mm-hmm. Especially when you know the dog's reactive. She held the line. I'd said, here's the line. Here's what we're doing. Using some treats, using basic little corrections, lots of reward. I'm looking for the behavior. Okay. The dog, all of a sudden, I'm looking at it, and I'll show you the video. I won't post the video publicly. The dog just, boom, I saw it in his eyes, and I was like, he's off. And she lets the leash go. The dog makes a beeline. There was a dog, it was no bigger than that big, a little like poodle.
No.
Swear to God. The dog doesn't even go up to the fence to bark at it. He goes around the fence, grabbed it, and when I saw the dog running, I knew, I didn't see a dog, and I was like, he's doing something, because I saw in his eyes, that was that. No warning sign, like no barking, no lunging.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like, okay, like Charles Manson, right? Click, boom. So this dog takes off, and I go flying out, and the dog jumps on top of this little dog, and I was on top of him, and I choked him out. I choked him out before he could do anything, but 2 puncture wounds. And Janet was like beside herself, and she went with the lady to the owner of the dog. It was the nicest, this young mom with her little baby carriage, and she was reaching and trying to break it up. I said, I got this, and I had the dog off real quick. And he saw another dog, and I lifted him off to try to shut him up. And the lady said to me, she goes, well, what do you think? I said, I'll tell you what I would do. I'd give him dinner tonight, and tomorrow morning, I'd bring him to the vet and kill him.
And you told her like that?
I told her just like that. And Janet was standing there when I said it. And she said, well, that's the one thing I like about Robert. He's really direct. But she didn't do it.
Yeah.
Right? I'm sure she's going to watch this. She's a very nice woman. But you got to kill that dog. Because that dog gives no warning signs. He's just a natural born killer. I've trained a lot of aggressive dogs. This dog, it's not about, I'm upset, you're in my space, your movement upsets me. Like all those little triggers, we can work with any of that, and we can manage that. But it's like having you're living with your wife, but she's a serial murderer.
Yep.
Like you got to kill her, right? You got to get rid of that dog.
But yeah, and the thing is that when we hear about when I see I'm always like, man, am I doing something like that? Because I always see, the famous pure positive guy on YouTube, right? And he's going off on another trainer, and I'm just like, I'm gonna go see this guy's stuff, because and every dog I see him working with is like
good,
not just good, but it's like when they are showing the reactive dogs, it's nothing like what I've seen,
right?
Like, because I've worked with like I remember my aunt's bull terrier, like that dog did not bark, that dog wanted to just kill and or it screamed because they wanted to get to kind of how Wapo does it to get to a bite,
but different,
but to a dog. Like they want to get to a dog that bad. It's not like they're barking because they're being reactive. No, they want to go and grip, right? Like, and I can't comprehend why they're putting this out there. I would really love for there to be like a show or like a get together. They were like, hey, you know what? Let's go and let's bring like some of the craziest dogs and put them here, and let's see your techniques go to work on these dogs. Because these dogs, you're not going to remove this piece from them because the way they are, unless, like, even I got Galan now.
Yep.
And Guapo was never like Galan. Galan is a little bit more, has a little bit of a,
edge.
Yeah, and I see it. And what I'm doing is I go, I'm going to put this thing on cue. So early on, I'm putting it on cue because I know I want to stop it.
Right.
And I want him to know that he could at some point turn on if I asked him to, but if he does it when I don't ask him to, then we're going to have a big problem.
Yeah.
And if somebody saw the way that I corrected Galan and they had me on video, trust me, I'd probably be all over the internet. But I also know what I have. And I know that dog could do some serious damage. And I'd rather give him a small, give him a correction right now than have to deal with the repercussions of what's going to come later.
But that's what people don't face, right? That people don't understand that. And I think, look, as a trainer, I've used corrections my whole life, right? My whole training career. And I'm not ashamed of it. Like, I don't want to not show me correcting your dog. I've shown plenty of aggressive dogs with corrections. The problem is more and more people, first of all, you have two sides of this, right? You have the one side where you have people who are so brutal with their corrections and their language and their attitude and everything that they make it like, I kicked that dog's ass. That's not cool either. Right? And then you have the other side where people go, well, dogs are sentient beings and they should deserve respect and we should never have to put a collar on whatever.
Right.
Well, then I think you should leave 20 pounds of dog food out all day long, because if they get hungry, that's a sentient being too. We're getting away from the real, and I think this has happened in society. You know, when I grew up, which I'm older than you, significantly old, I could be your father, I think.
No, I don't
I think so. You said something about your father the other day, how old he was. I think I'd be your father. You know, when I grew up, if people said something, you punched them in the face.
Right.
And I'm not saying that's right, but I am saying that worked.
It most definitely worked.
Right. Oh, you grew up in a tough neighborhood.
I grew up in a tough neighborhood, and I've learned many lessons that way.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm thankful for them.
Me too.
Now.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? Like I was out of pocket on some of these things that, you know, caught people's attention that whooped my ass.
Yeah.
I mean, it really comes down to that have made me a much better man today.
Yeah. I agree with you.
You know, I mean, stupid. I mean, trying to bully somebody even.
Yep.
I remember being a kid and trying to bully somebody, you know, and it was like he laughed at me or something because I fell, and I tried to walk up to him and bully him, and he was like afraid, and I made me grow and be this, and then the uncle came and like, and they whooped my ass, right?
Yeah,
bro, that's gonna teach you a lesson.
Yep, 100%.
You better watch who you're messing with.
Yeah,
now,
for sure.
And again, I feel like going back to the dog stuff, there's two sides and there's extremes to both sides.
100%. 100%.
It doesn't mean that, you know, when we say correction for some reason or aversives, it's like, bro, like it doesn't mean that we're going, you know, all in on this dog. No, I don't want to correct my dog. If I don't have to, I'm not going to correct them.
Me neither. I never want to.
But sometimes there's certain things that you have to correct, or we can try to counter condition, but as much as you try to counter condition, it only goes so far with certain things, with certain dogs.
Yeah.
Can you teach your dog not to go off on people? Yeah, you could teach him without aversives. Yeah, you don't need aversives, but he's going to need a correction. And then we could use that example real quick. How do you get your dog to want to be okay with other people? Well, I teach him how to play. Mm-hmm. He plays with me. And now when I take him out, he has his tug in his mouth, and I let him go to other people. They play with him. I say, play with them. Let him have it. Let him walk away.
Yeah.
So now he sees them as like a form of play.
Right.
That's one way of doing it. But if out of nowhere, like I took my dog out to pee at the warehouse, and this guy just walks by, and he literally was going to bite him. He was going straight to bite him. And he goes out of nowhere. I had to correct him at that point.
For sure.
I didn't have a tug with me.
Yeah.
But I had me.
Yeah.
And I corrected him, and I told the guy, please walk again. Did it really good?
Understood.
Good. Nothing happened. Then he just peed.
Yep.
It literally was that easy to correct the issue. Now, that's me. I'm a trainer. I've been doing this for years. I can see it.
Yeah, and you're the guy being criticized too, right?
All the time.
As trainers, we're criticized.
Yeah.
And so that's the sad part, right? But I'm saying that's the exact point. What I'm saying, Oscar, is like we've come to this thing where the weak are now empowered through social media. So that means you have a wimpy guy like the guy we're talking about. Total wimp, right? I mean, honestly. Like I would not have any issue meeting him in a dark alley, right? But he's the guy who's out there bullying. He's bullied a lot of people, right? Because he can do it from behind a keyboard. I've invited any positive only trainer. And this goes back to what you were saying before, you know, about doing this show or this idea. Oscar, for 10 more, I mean, how many years was I at the shelter? 10, 12, whatever years. Mm-hmm. And I ran my programs. And I had people who backed me, who knew what I was doing. I had a thing. I said, anytime, any day, any dog. You come to the shelter, you pick the worst dog. You get to go through and you go pick the worst dog for Robert Cabral. And I'll pick the second worst dog for you, or the third worst, whatever you want. Mm-hmm. And I'll meet you in an hour. I can do it in an hour. Yeah. I can get some kind of change in behavior in an hour. I know you can too. A day, or at the end of the 3-day workshop. Whatever you want, I'll meet you.
Right.
Never had one. But they'll all challenge me online.
Right. Well, they'll go to like, oh, he's just suppressing. He's suppressing.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm suppressing. And you have to continue
to
suppress and teach the owner how to do it. You know, if they're going to be able to deal with it, it's going to be a problem. Yeah, you're right. We're not going to fix this issue. I can't remove this genetic thing from this dog, but he's going to change his mindset about it when I'm holding the leash at least.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people need to understand. It's like, I mean, educating owners is the most important piece 100%. Of it. But that doesn't mean that we're going to be able to remove this thing from this dog. We could remove maybe the thought, because there's things that I do, like I correct, but then, there's other things that I could try to counter condition a little bit. And we're going to, we play with that and try to get a center, a middle ground when it comes to that stuff.
Well, I think everything we do, because I think we train very similarly. Like you train a lot of shelter dogs and pet dogs, and I've trained personal protection dogs. Never, I mean, I title Goofy to a level 1, no big deal. But I think we can see each other's talents. I have immense respect for you for the way you train and what you've done. But we need to pull together people who are on that side, and say, hey, we need to make things work because the dogs are suffering.
Right.
Like they're suffering immensely with a lack of information. And I shouldn't say it's not lack of information. I'm wrong. It's abundance of bad information. When people tell you, Janet said to me once, she goes, I went to Clicker Expo, but I never thought there was no corrections involved. And that's what they brainwash you. And it's literally a cult, right? I'm going to give you this little bit of information, and at the end, you're going to sign over your house and your family, and you're going to worship me, in this thing and give me all your money. But I can't start by saying that. And that's what they say. They say, oh, we do this and it's fair and it works on all dogs and it can do any behaviors and can do this and can do that. But it can't. It really, really can't, because there's nobody. I mean, I love dogs. You see, I've got 14-year-old Goofy. I mean, Maya just crapped herself. I'm wiping her butt.
Yep.
My puppy, I kiss him, I hold him. But you know why I can correct him? Because I love him that frickin' much.
Yep.
I don't go, well, you know what? I'll just rehome him, or I'll just put him down. I've advocated for a couple of dogs to be put down, and I held one dog when he was put down. I'm going to release that video at some point. I cried like it was my dog.
Yep.
I was on the ground in the vet's office, sobbing my eyes out, and I'd met the dog 20 minutes before.
I've had to put a dog down because it was sick, but I'm the same way. Nobody wants to do that.
No, but we're honest about it. And if you're willing, first of all, it's a lie when somebody says to me, it'll happen this way. Because if somebody said to me, your example, well, it didn't work with your methodology, I'm going to try somebody else's. Now, the reason that wouldn't work in your and my situation is because, one, we start with treats, we start with games, and if it works with that, we just solve the problem the same way every positive-only trainer would do it. But when it doesn't work there, we don't keep banging our heads against the wall and frustrating a dog and making it worse and eventually walking away, because that's what they do.
Yeah.
They truly walk away. At the end, they go, there's just nothing we can do for your dog, because they don't want to go to that level.
I don't know if I recently, well, not recently, maybe about a year ago, I had a guy, and I don't know if I've already talked to you about this, but I had a guy who was with a peer positive trainer and was service dog training. And he's like, man, I've spent over $50,000 with this trainer. And you know what? It sucks because I see the dog and I could see the training there. But this guy, the owner, did not nearly know how to operate. Like first of all, he had something with his, with his brain. So he couldn't move.
The owner.
Yeah, the owner. He couldn't move the same. So he had a really hard time dealing with this dog because he was like, man, like he's not under control. And, if I have treats and I could see it when I whipped out some treats, I could see the training there. And I said, man, like I see it. I see what they've done, but it's not functional for him and how he operates, because he can't have clicker, treats, this. Like he just couldn't operate. So I said, look, let me take the dog. I'll take him for a month. Give them back to you, and then bro, and I could see the work. All this dog needed was different type of work.
Boundaries.
Where some boundaries where it's like, no, you have to do it. And it was good.
Yeah.
Now they're like, well, And then we'll go to the other side. Well, their dogs aren't meant to, have to do jobs for people. This guy didn't even want him to do the crazy stuff. All he wanted was a good pet that would not go, leave the house when he asked him to stay there.
Well, that's where this all heads, right? So just so you know, like when you look at organizations like the one that kills more dogs than any other organization, and they say they're ethical. I use that word.
Starts with an A, ends with an A.
No, this is a different one.
Oh,
it starts
is it a different
with a
one?
P and ends with an A.
Oh,
So I can't say
okay.
who it is. Their goal, and the founder of the organization has said this, is that people should not have pets.
That's crazy.
Well, but that's what it is. And trust me, dogs live better lives as pets than they do by not being pets, because we love them, we feed them, we buy them expensive food, I mean, I've got beds here that are $200, $300. It's more expensive than the bed I slept on when I was a teenager.
Robert's dogs live good.
There's no better life than being one of Robert's dogs, and you're going to never die. Like you'll never, I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on, thank God I got insurance, on vet care. But I do believe, I will correct my dog. I will, if I had a son or a daughter, probably a son, I'd spank him. I got no problem with it. I was spanked.
You're going to get canceled.
I don't care. Like cancel me, I don't care.
Yeah.
But the point is, you know what it is with me? I'm honest about it. Like, I'm not going to say something, say, oh, I didn't say that. I did say that.
Yeah.
I did. I taught karate for a long time, and I taught kids karate. And the kids who went to my karate class all ended up good kids, and the people were all executive top level people, because I'm upfront. I'm going to tell you, I correct dogs. When I've got a client, I'm going to correct your dog.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do whatever it takes to solve your problem. Because what you said, it's not that, they shouldn't have to do something. Well, they should. Right? We all expect them to have to do something. Like if you have a dog and, okay, then why don't you let the dog crap in the house? You crap in the house.
Right.
Right? Why don't you let the dog have access to food 24/7? You have access to food 24/7. Why don't you let them eat whatever they want? You eat whatever you want. There are have-tos.
1,000%.
Right? And by not having have-tos is where you really screw up a dog. Just like kids, always on their phones, always doing this, eating what they want. They're fat. They're blind. They're out of shape. They have ADD. They have all these issues that we didn't have because I didn't have a video game. I got a Pong game, which you don't even know what a Pong game is.
Oh, I remember the
You do?
Atari.
Yeah, Atari.
Yeah,
right.
That was at the end.
Okay, you were at the end. I was at the beginning. Like I was at the genesis of the Pong. But yeah, this is the problem. And dogs that get away with everything are not good dogs.
Yeah.
And they're not happy dogs because they never have to work for anything. Just like rich kids who just get a lot of money as inheritance are assholes.
Yeah. But they'll never, I feel like, Robert, as much as we put all this out there, it's going to be really hard. We're not going to convince
I don't care.
a lot of these people, right? So I just feel like, I think you're right. I think that I'm going to do my part, and I'm going to be a little more upfront about, some of the corrections that I give and everything. Cause I do feel like but it's funny because even with, say, competition stuff, they see me do competition. If the dog's wearing an e-collar, automatically they assume that he's only doing that because he's wearing an e-collar. They're not talking about the hours and hours and hours of times that I put into these dogs where they could do this type of stuff. No, it's the e-collar. If it wasn't for the e-collar, he wouldn't be doing it, right? And I'm just like, so you're telling me that basically this e-collar taught everything, just like your food taught your dog everything that it doesn't work that way. You know what I'm saying? And so I hate that there's this big divide, but it is what it is. And it is our job to the trainers that are out there to be a little bit more out there and
be open
and be open about how you're training these dogs. Yeah. And so, and I know we're working on something together, and in there, there's a correction that I give Galan. Yeah. And, but it has to be done.
But here's why I think it's important. I want to bring this up. Then we're going to segue into what we want to announce. In Europe, it's now illegal to do removing a dog's dew claws is a 25,000 euro fine in Germany.
Wow.
Right? 25,000 euro. Now, I'm going to tell you that and you know this, and a vet has told me this, if your dog is running and catches that dew claw on something, it's such a painful injury ripping it off, right? But because of, this isn't Germans. This isn't the average German. The average German is just like you and me. I mean, I'm half German. I can tell you exactly how they think. They care about the animal. They want to do what's right. But it's the radicals. The radicals are out there screaming, and they're like these annoying, nagging babies who cry and cry and cry, and people just go, okay, fine, we'll do it. Just shut up. Like, we don't want you protesting and smearing blood on our walls anymore. We'll just give you your stupid shit.
That's crazy.
Right? It's ridiculous. I would say retarded, but that's politically incorrect. So in Europe, in Germany, many countries, you can't use a prong collar, you can't use an e-collar, you can't use a slip lead. They put a ring in it so that it only goes to a certain degree. You can't use a crate, right? So you have all these laws. Here's why it's important that you and I stay vocal on this. You're at the top of your game. And I've told this to every person that I know who I respect, you being among those people. We live in the greatest country in the world. We have the greatest opportunity. Although there's so many people trying to destroy it, we still have immense freedoms. And as long as we remain vocal, and as long as we remain focused on saying, hey, we're going to stand up, we're going to keep our rights.
Right.
Look, if a woman wants to have a right to do with her body what she wants, then I should be able to do with my dog what I want, right? Because he is a sentient being. And I am taking that into consideration when I train him to give him the best information I can so that he'll have the best life that he can.
Yeah. And again, I think we just have to make it doesn't mean that you're beating the crap out of you're hanging them up and beating them up as a punching bag. No. Like, we're not doing that. We go after people that do that.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? But for some reason, they feel like just because it's an aversive that.
Yeah. But the problem with that is, and I talked about this when I was teaching my classes at Bound Angels, the word punishment, which came about through, I guess Skinner came up with the name. I'm not going to say, because I'm always make mistakes and stuff like that. The word punishment has ruined it, because people say punishment is like punish. It's like punish, it's hurting. I never use the word punish. Like, I always use the word correction, because correction has a different connotation. If you say to me, what's 2 + 2? And I say 5, you say, no, you're wrong. You've just corrected me.
Right.
Right? It's 4. And I go, oh, okay, I get it. And next time you say, hey, Robert, by the way, what's 2 + 2? And I go 4, you go, oh, correction worked. But if I had said 5 and you said, okay, then I would look like an idiot.
Right.
Just like people let their dogs look like idiots.
Yeah.
And on that term, now I'm going to make your big announcement.
Yeah.
We've been working on this for 3 months?
3 months at least. Yeah.
3 months. We've been shooting twice a week. I've been editing my butt off.
Yeah.
This will be the first thing I'm releasing on my platform that's not me. So that's a huge compliment to you.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
We've been friends for a long time. I've watched you train, and we're releasing your first instructional course.
Yep.
That will be hopefully in the next 6 months or so. It'll be ready to be purchased.
6 months, probably before that. I don't know.
3 months?
I think 3 months.
All right, let's go for 3 months. Let's go. So what are we looking at? Now we got May, right? So June, July. Okay, let's go for August.
Yeah.
Let's say August, whatever we're at, we'll have it ready to go.
Yep.
Let's talk a couple minutes about it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So this is the first part we're releasing is all obedience, right? And let's talk about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, basically I got my new puppy, Galan, and, and I have Moses, who's a little over a year now. And then I got Guapo, who's my older dog. So we're showing the process of, what it's like with Galan, with Moses. And, and obviously I'm showing some stuff with Guapo. I think the biggest thing for me with this course is try to make it as simple, as positive, as possible, to make this as simple as possible, so that the viewers could, get out there and do some of this stuff with their dogs. And the dogs don't have to be like, these high performing sport dogs, but I think everybody that has a dog could have a good time watching this course and teaching the dogs some of the things that we teach for competition.
Yeah, but you slipped up and you said the word positive, and it is actually a very positive course.
Right.
I mean, there's very few corrections in it, but we do touch on it. We touch on there's a need for certain times. Yeah, you had Galan and he did something, and I showed it to Janet. Like, he was doing something that the average pet parent wouldn't have gotten it, right? They probably would have seen it. It would have gone wrong, because it would have gone wrong if you didn't stop them.
Right.
And somebody would have got hurt, and it would have been reinforced, right? And then he would have tried it again. It would have probably been reinforced a couple of times,
right.
and now it would have been a much firmer correction
right.
before it was ever solved. But you solved it instantly.
Yeah, because I know what can come with it. I've had a dog that I ignored when he did those sort of things, and going back to some of the stuff, a lot of people feel that if you have a working dog, you gotta be soft on it. You can't correct them. You can't do it because you want to build them up to be these, and I think differently. I feel like, there's black and white.
Sure.
And there's going to be a time and place for everything. And just because you're biting a decoy does not mean you could just go bite anybody else.
Sure.
And so it's good to teach your dogs all these different things, right? But anyways, going back to the course, yes, we do show corrections, but it's mostly all, food-based,
treat,
play and play-based, right?
Yeah.
I think it's the most important piece of building a good dog is teaching. So I try to teach Galan every little piece. And in the course, there were a couple times where we had to shift a little bit on how I was teaching because it wasn't working out at the time. So I feel like it's important for people to see some of these mistakes.
Well, I think that's what I love about this course and the way it's heading is because it's not this, like, I hate seeing people train, or they're really not training the dog. They're demonstrating training
An already trained
on
dog.
already trained dog.
Right.
That's easy. I mean, this course is really taking Galan through these little steps and then taking your other dog, Moses, which you've done these steps with, and showing it a year later, and then taking these steps and showing it 9 years later with Guapo, your competition dog.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like with this course, I think we could show how, even if you are performing at a high level, like dog training, there's no set thing for dog training. You're always going to have to make certain shifts here and there. And we want to guide, we want to help people through these issues that come across in their training.
Well, I think this course also, it's not only, and this is what I think is great about it, it's not only for a top-level competitor who I think could take a lot out of this from your skill and your approach. It's also for anybody who wants to be a professional dog trainer to learn new little, if you take one thing out of that, who said this was Nino. Nino said when people go to seminars, they try to grasp all this information. If they just focus on getting one thing, they'd have their money's worth. And if you took my shelter course, your obedience course, this other course, and you learned one thing, you'd be an amazing trainer.
Actually, I mean, a lot of the things that I do in this course, I apply to our pet dog stuff.
Okay.
And and obviously when we're teaching like a heel and all, it might not be a focused heel, but it's still a contact heel.
The idea, right?
The idea of it and everything. And you want a dog to be doing behaviors with some sort of, how can I say,
confidence.
Be excited, be confident. And, so definitely if you watch this course and you apply it to just your regular pet dog, you will see some good results.
100%.
And so and we touch on IGP, ring sport, PSA. So a lot of the things that we teach are going to be things that you could use for all these sports and your regular pet.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, like I was saying to you, a lot of people have watched my videos for years, and they're going to saying, well, I learned all this stuff. This is like the next level all the way to the top. This is just can take them all the way.
Yeah, and again, these are things that I've learned in the last, I don't know, I've been doing it for a while, but say from Guapo, 9 years, right? Yep. And I've had other dogs before that I learned with. So I've already made a ton of mistakes. And so there's certain things that I could see that I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do it this way because I had this issue back then. And so hopefully, some people could take something from it. Yeah.
So we're hoping on July 2024 to have it out. It's going to be, we'll have it on your site. We'll have it, it'll be linked on my site as well. And it's going to have obedience. It's going to have fun games to play using toys, using treats, fun games you play with them. I love like the tug game. And, watching you, I mean, I'm always learning. I'm a forever student, and I love watching you because I learn a lot from watching you. And it's really, it's fun. Like you make training. When I learned IGP stuff, it was really kind of like, it wasn't ugly, but it wasn't fun. Right. What I'm seeing now is it's really, I've never had more fun with a dog than with Schmuley. Man, I'm looking forward to you and Schmuley, man. I think you guys are going to do some great stuff for sure. It's fun, and you're a big part of it. So I'm grateful to you. I'm happy. And then another thing that
that we're gonna keep. I mean, we're gonna keep training together.
Yeah.
So there's gonna be other things that we keep adding to this thing as the dogs get older.
Yeah.
You know, so I think it's gonna be good. I'm excited.
Yeah, we got a few years out of us.
Yeah.
You're stuck with me for a while.
Let's do it.